Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Like and subscribe.
We were playing with this idea of edges and boundaries and what that means when we sit. And also, a lot of what we do here translates into the world outside of here. And so we started practice after getting our posture set. We started with focusing in on our breath to kind of anchor us and show us what we're going to experience throughout the meditation, the various distractions, different things that come up, and kind of set the parameters for what I expected you to do and to experience during the practice. Then we moved from the breath into the body and feeling the boundaries of the body, the textures and the various things that touch our skin, and the way our weight is carried and held in the spaces that we move through. So we played into that space a little bit. Then we moved from feeling that to kind of zooming in and zooming out and noticing, like you could sense stuff very up close, or you could get really wide with your aperture and notice what you feel. And then we took the body and scanned it. And the way we scanned it was by first our inner line. So we scanned right down the center of our body, the kind of the main parts of us, which in themselves are a metaphor. And then we did the exact same thing, but we did it on the edges of the body, the sides of the body. And then I invited you to kind of scan back and forth between those two spaces and notice what you notice and be curious about your experience. And then brought you back to the breath and left you in a few minutes of just silence, just to be with yourself. And that brings us full circle to the end of practice.
Welcome to the Sit, Walk, Work podcast, a show about paying attention. My name is Dominic and I'm your host, and today is a guided meditation. And what you can expect is that the practice will open up with a brief recap, followed by the actual practice itself. If you find today's episode valuable, please share with your friends and family, and feel free to leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. The show will begin after the following chimes.
And don't worry if you've never meditated and you're new to this whole thing. We welcome that here. This class is really designed for all flavors of meditation. So if you have a practice, great. If you've never practiced, great. If you regularly practice and this is just one of many, also great. If you haven't already, go ahead and make yourself comfortable. Seated or lying down is kind of the preferred places for you to be. Part of the practices is the posture and kind of being aware of how our body initially starts. We spend a lot of time focusing our attention on the breath and on the body. So an initial awareness of setting up that foundation will make for a good practice. Today's practice is going to align us towards this idea of defining our edges and how boundaries work in the practice and in our lives. So just so you kind of get a general sense for where I'm going to be taking your attention today and moving you through it. And so with that being said, if you're sitting down, make sure you can take a good breath in, that you're not collapsed in any way that's going to affect your ability to breathe. So maybe sit up nice and tall, let your hands rest somewhere comfortably. And if you're lying down, also same thing. Can you breathe well? And that's important because the breath is such an anchor to what we do. I need to make sure that you can do that. And so adjust your practice or adjust your position to help accommodate that, number one. If you could take a good breath in and everything feels okay to do that, the next thing I asked is to make sure that your hands have a steady and stable place to relax and rest. And then as you begin to adjust your posture, this is a good time to notice if there's any other thing that you might need to make you feel more comfortable. If there's not, that's okay. But if there is, take this moment to grab it. And then the final cue I give in relationship to posture is to close the eyes. Now, if it doesn't feel safe or you're not comfortable yet to close the eyes, that's okay. You can just focus them on a point in front of you that doesn't move, and that'll help you be steady. And all of those things in combination bring us here to this moment, to the practice. I was talking before some of you joined about the value of slowing down. For me, 2026 has been a very hectic year already, and we're 22 days into it. I know because I'm counting them and I'm feeling each and every step of it. And so tonight's practice is an opportunity to step out of that chaos for a brief period of time. Focus on your body, focus on your breath. Put down the need to be right, to need to be wrong, to check a box, to strive for anything. In this practice, I ask you to pay attention. Pay attention to what's going on in your body. Pay attention to the way you judge that, the stories you say about that, and what you feel. So start to notice the way you feel grounded. So if you're sitting, notice your sit bones as they're connected to the mat. If you're lying down, notice the edges of the parts of your body that are connecting to the surface that's supporting you. Feel where your weight is balanced in either one of those postures or position. There can be a sense of feeling held and supported when we're touching into this grounded nature of ourselves. The thing about guided meditations is that I can really only ever point your attention to one thing at a time. But that doesn't mean that that one thing is the only thing that's present. So while you might be feeling your body and the weight of your body physically, can you open your attention a bit wider to also notice subtler parts of your experience? So the temperature in the room that you're in, for example, if there's any ambient sounds, any changing light patterns, even with the eyes closed, you can still sense and register the external light in the space that you're in. And just generally anything else that might be present with you beyond just feeling the body. In Buddhism, we often talk about clarity being considered a form of compassion. That when we see clearly, we suffer less. And when we suffer less, we cause less harm. And a lot of our stress doesn't come from too much separation, but really it comes from having unclear boundaries. When we know where we end and the world begins, we're able to make informed and clear decisions, taking responsibilities for what belongs to us and what doesn't. The Stoics taught a simple discipline: know what's within your control and what's not. Peace begins at that boundary. So in tonight's practice, I ask you to consider a simple question as we go along. And that is, where do I end and where does the world begin? In this way, we can inhabit our boundaries very wisely. In our first example of physically utilizing those words and that in this little talk that I gave, is to notice where the breath is coming in and out of the body. So as you breathe in, I want you to notice the breath entering your body. And so there's two ways that can obviously happen. One is through the nose and one is through the mouth. So if you're breathing through the nose, I want you to feel the breath physically enter the body, enter the nostrils, the temperature of the breath, the way it kind of moves over the top lip, the way the body responds to the inhale breath by expanding the belly of the chest. And then feeling the breath when it exits and leaves your body. It's as if we're just spotlighting the starting point of our breathing and then feeling it radiate out of us. The breath is a great reminder that as we move through the world, there's a constant dance between us and the world around us. The breath you take in is the breath you share with the world around you, but you have to pull that same air back in on your next inhale. Along the way, focusing our attention in this way on the breath also brings us back to the opportunity to be distracted, to have our attention pulled away by a series of thoughts that might enter the mind, by physical sensations that you feel in your body. It takes practice and time for the body to adjust to slowing down. So I ask you to give yourself grace and patience. If your attention doesn't stay on the breath long, just try again. And that's true for anything that I ask of you throughout this practice. Taking the feeling of breathing a bit wider. So instead of just focusing on breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, or in through the nose and out through the mouth, I want you to start to feel your breath. So you can feel it in your belly or in your chest. And in feeling the breath, let your attention expand to also feel where the skin meets the edges of your clothing or a blanket or the surface beneath you. And just kind of notice where those edges appear. Every time we sit to pay attention, we try to refine it. We try to see if we can make it a bit more subtle. So in the example of the texture of your clothing, can you feel and notice the difference in textures that are present? you might notice that there's a difference in temperature. It's true for your breath. The air that enters your body feels different than the air that leaves it. These are the ways that you see where these lines separate us from internal and external. Now, I'll ask you to open up your attention a bit wider. I like to think of our attention like a spotlight. We can keep it very pointed and focused, like I originally had you do in our initial breath exercise, or it can get really larger, more spacious. And in this way, we start to feel our body from head to toe. And we just notice those same attributes, texture of your clothing against your skin, or the air that's hitting your face, or the weight of your body. But now, instead of focusing on just one single point, we kind of notice it all collectively. In this way, our attention can move from head to toe, it can bounce around, it can be a little more free. One of the things you might observe as you're paying attention to your body this closely is there's a lot of change happening. There's a lot of movement happening. There's a lot of aliveness here, even as you're being still, that's occurring. Know that that's normal. How you handle it, the compassion, the patience, the willingness to be with it, that's what you get to practice. We're going to allow our attention to get a little more pointed, a little more focused again. So I want you to imagine that there's a line that runs from the crown of your head all the way down to the base of the spine into the pelvic bowl. And this imaginary line is dividing you right down the middle, right down your center. We're going to use this line along with our attention to move through the inner parts of our body. So, as if you were just scanning, starting at the crown of your head, bring your attention there. Bring your breath there. Hold the breath and the attention at the crown of the head. And come down your center line to the throat, bringing with it your attention and your breath. And moving your attention down to the center of your chest. Breathing here into the heart space. Letting the attention move down to the belly. And the breath now finds its way into a natural space. And then you find your attention dropping into your pelvis, base of your spine. Breathing here. This inner line represents your presence. It's the nearest and dearest parts of ourselves. It is the spaces that we protect the most. By contrast, we'll now begin to find our outer edges or our outer line. So now allow your attention to come to the outside edges of your feet. Along the line where your ankle is, you'll move your attention up the side of the body, both right and left. Feeling the sides of the legs. Sides of the outer hips. Sides of your rib cage. Your arms. Your shoulders. And both sides of your face. And with a sense of the outer and the inner edges of ourselves, it gives us a place to contrast, moving attention between that center line and the edges, between your presence and your participation. Noticing the spaces in which it was a little more subtle, where you didn't maybe feel as much, versus places where you felt more sensation than others. In this way, we come to see that it's good to have both participation to connection to the spaces outside of us, but also a deep and personal connection to the spaces that lie within us. That it's not either or, it's a yes and. Letting your attention begin to find its way back to just focusing on the breath. In the same way that we started practice, the invitation is to take this last few minutes of practice and focus on paying attention to the breath as it moves in and out of the body. Instead of moving it around in the ways that we have, allowing yourself to be here with the breath in a few moments of silence. As we begin to bring practice to a close, I like to start by initially moving my hands and wiggling my toes a bit to slowly let myself exit the practice before blinking your eyes open and coming back online.
That's the beauty of it.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I invite you to check out my Substack, where we are building a community of like-minded individuals to discuss all topics related to the idea of paying attention. I hope to see you there. But until then, with Metta, may you be well.
Like and subscribe.